Russell Wilson in the buildings in Berea today. The Browns may officially be on the clock at number 2 overall. And the latest news involving the Cleveland Browns, Jack Conklin, and it seems like it's an annual thing, has a little tinkering done to his deal. Pete Smith, Jeff Lloyd, Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening, Mower, Sales, and Service. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. The OBR's own Pete Smith here along with us. Been a quiet 24 hours for the most part since we last sat down here and spoke. Just want to thank everybody, of course, the amount of people pouring into for the written content of the website. Coming into the nightly streaming channel here, Browns 3D leading off. Tonight after us, you will have All Eyes on Me as well, so stick around for Brad. I believe Casey will be joining him tonight. Make sure you're subscribed, of course, on YouTube and on Twitch as well. I guess we'll kind of just take them randomly here. I guess this is the freshest one here. 2020 brought in one of the first acquisitions. If you remember back to 2020, it was Austin Hooper and it was Jack Conklin pretty much immediately after noon when legal tampering opened. Jack Conklin, and from our Jack Duff, and basically there was no guaranteed money left for Jack Conklin. Was under contract for 25 and 2026, but the latest here, Pete's with the updates to Jack Conklin's contract.
Yeah, so he's gonna play this year on a contract that's worth $10 million, with up to $2 million in incentives. He was scheduled to get, I think, 17.7 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So it gives the Browns more cash as they continue to sort of manipulate, to try to find as many ways as they can to create more money to be able to sign players, whether that ends up being for quarterback or just more talent in general. There are a number of things that they could do to try to improve this roster.
Now, if I'm reading this all correctly, Pete, this would put him with no contract for 2026, correct? He would be, on its surface, a free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah, so his contract was supposed to be through this year and next, and now it is just going to end after this year.
Now, certainly could lead to Jack Conklin, certainly somewhere along the line being resigned. Basically, the way Jack Conklin works is if you kind of get a full year out of Jack Conklin, you get some really good tackle play. Jack, unfortunately, has had, certainly a pretty extensive injury run. And the thing with Jack Conklin is when he gets injured, he gets really, really injured. So certainly he's fought his way back. Now, with Cornelius Lucas brought it in the fold, Pete, I know I've talked about this and we talked about this together. The way it looks and the work the Browns have done now, you would say, all right, maybe offensive tackle is not a huge need. And when we talk about huge need, we're talking about me personally, these first 5 picks in the top 104. So the way this works for the Browns basically is you have those five picks in the top 104. And for now, it's 6th and 7th round. So there's kind of that gray area between 104 to the Browns would be slated as of now to start action again mid to late day 3. So does this change the landscape? Because look, it doesn't change the class and that there is not necessarily a lot of offensive tackles in it. But the Browns certainly maybe have more pressing needs. But of course, you could certainly just play out 2025. And the hope certainly would be that DeJuan Jones solidifies himself, as you have said. Most likely the left spot would be the ideal spot if everything works out for DeJuan. But does that change the way you view it this draft and basically the next 6-7 weeks for the Cleveland Browns as far as the offensive tackle position?
It really depends on what they want to do numbers-wise. Right now, if you have the 5 starters, which is DeJuan Jones, Jack Conklin, Joe Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, and Ethan Posick, and then you add Cornelius Lucas, who's going to make the team, Zach Zinter, who's going to make the team, and if you add in Luke Whippler at center, who they like, but got to see what he can do coming off the ankle and all that, it comes down, do they want to carry 9 into the season or they want to carry 10? If they want to carry 9, then you got room for one dude. And to me, I'm far more worried about guard than I am tackle with Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. Because, as it stands, all 3 guys are now on the last – in fact, 4 guys are on the last year of their contracts now. They've got Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posick, and Jack Conklin are all scheduled to be out of their contracts after this year. So you would like to be able to get Ethan Poston or Luke Whippler, if he can, sort of establish himself as the next man up. If Zach Zinter can sort of be coached up to potential, he to me profiles as a right guard. I think Whiteteller might have one more year on his contract of this. I could be wrong, but
Jack wants him out of here anyway. So 5 years running now.
He profiles more as a right guard, and maybe the Browns view it differently, but that's just my view on it. So you still need to find a left guard to me, and that's pretty pressing. Since if the Browns want to, they could, and Jack Conklin is willing, they could theoretically just re-sign him for another year after this year. Joe Bitonio is done. Like at some point, he's going to run out of seasons, and they're going to have somebody else to do that. So to me, left guard is more pressing. Now, if the Browns sit there and go, man, we love the way the board has fallen, and we just feel really good, and we can also get a tackle we feel really good about, and they want to carry 10 of the season, great. Then you've got that set up, and you can go with that. And they've done that in the past. They've carried more than 9 into a year. So it really just comes down to how they want to handle their own roster.
So, obviously your moves there, and look, it's becoming, look, and it's last year certainly was not the great run of it, but this offensive line, it was eventually going to have its run come to an end. All good things must come to an end, unfortunately. There was a name that actually went yesterday, Pete, to the Jets, 1 year, $3.5 million. Myers, the center. And this is a guy that we kind of were peeking at, and we kind of thought this wouldn't be a terrible addition. And then honestly, you saw the deal, and then it was more even like, oh, that definitely maybe something you certainly wanted to maybe be in on.
Yeah, he stood out as a guy because, the Packers are a heavy zone team, former Ohio State center, pretty good athlete. And obviously the Browns have dipped into that well before signing J.C. Treader out of there. And if the Browns wanted to be proactive and sort of get younger at center, I think Myers is 26, and move on from Posick, who I think for about 3/4 of the year did not play very well and then sort of picked it up a little bit at the end. How about you want to blame that on some of the issues they had last year with the offense and offensive line coach? It seems to this point that the Browns are betting that a lot of it was dysfunction within that element, and that between streamlining the offense and then bringing in Mike Bloomgren, it sounds like the Browns would have loved to have had last year, maybe if he wasn't still the head coach at Rice. That they're willing to see if that's going to work out, and then hopefully, again, we ran into a situation last year where like everybody was excited about what Luke Whippler showed. And then he fractures his ankle and has to have surgery in the season ending, and then they have to trade for the former Browns draft pick who just signed with Seattle,
Nick Harris.
Yeah, Nick Harris, and brought him back, and then he gets hurt. So we'll see what they can get out of this. But yeah, that to me sent the message that they are good with what they've got.
And certainly we heard from these guys themselves. And these guys literally, basically said in exit interviews, look, they all felt pretty confident. If we're going kind of back to what made us the unit that everybody kind of thought they were, everybody kind of thought that maybe everything would fall back into line as well in that regard. I'm going to start switching it up here. Did have obviously a huge name visit. We'll go with that today. But we're going to continue here. Your latest Browns 3D. Been with us now for over a month, and we're really excited to have the relationship here with State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. If you were local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Is there anything worse than missing the Browns game because you've got lawn chores to do? State has the best lineup of new Cub Cadet mowers to cut your mowing time down, as well as genuine parts and expert factory-trained technicians to get your existing mower back into peak shape. Whether you are in the market for a state-of-the-art Ultima Zero Turn or the top dog Enduro Series tractor, let State Sharpening and Cub Cadet help you keep your weekend yours. Veteran-owned. The Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders. They are lifetime Browns fans and huge supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you're local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Browns 3 continues. Pete Smith with your host, Jeff Lloyd. Again, appreciate everybody, coming out in droves here this week. It certainly had a lot more slower pace and, not necessarily, as Pete and I were just talking before we hit the record button, not necessarily Browns wise. And a lot of this is maybe because a lot of moves were made beforehand as far as teams retaining their own players. It just seems like a different type of week as far as the first week of free agency. But the Browns did get a visit today. And it still goes on. We've talked about this, and Pete, the first time we sat down here on Browns 3D, we basically talked about all the quarterbacks that were going to be available, and basically talked about, it's like picking off the hospital cafeteria menu, essentially. Nothing seems to have much taste to it. There is not much pizzazz to any of it. But Russell Wilson comes into the building today, and for all the, don't let him out of the building. Well, Russ did make it out of the building, did get in the SUV, and I'm assuming this time when he's going to New York, he's really going to meet with the New York Giants, not just taking a flight to New York to make it look like he is meeting with the New York Giants.
Yeah, the plan was he was going to meet with them. And look, if his interest is in competing, I would like to think that he thinks the Browns are a more competitive operation right now than the Giants. But I guess we'll see where that goes. I think in general, I understand that like most people are going to be sort of nonplussed by whoever the Browns get a quarterback, whether it's Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, whoever. But if you look at it from the standpoint of what really went wrong last year and just how bad quarterback play was and all that, and the fact that the Browns have been dealing with turnovers for the past couple of years, one, Russell Wilson protects the football. He only had 7 turnover-worthy plays last year for the Steelers. He had 24 big-time throws, gets rid of the ball relatively quickly. And he's got enough mobility that he's at least, he can move a little. But the bigger thing, and what sort of gets lost in this, is there's been so much focus on the quarterback. Understandably, the team has not run the ball well since Nick Chubb injured his knee. And whoever plays quarterback needs the Browns to fix their running game. And if they can run the ball and play good defense, it's going to take a lot off the plate of whoever's playing quarterback and make their job a lot easier. And if they protect the football on top of that, and they're not giving games away, then the Browns are going to be able to win games a lot like the Steelers have been for the past umpteen years, where people are sitting there getting frustrated watching them go 10-7 while they score like 17 points and win in the last moments of the game. I think Kevin Stefanski, the Kenny Pickett's another very, very low turnover-worthy play guy. It does suggest that Kevin Stefanski sort of fed up with turnovers and wants to be able to, finish the game with kicks. And like, to me, again, I've always thought of this as not being a Herculean lift to get the Browns to be much better if they address those other issues. Yes, the Browns need to find a quarterback answer for the long term, but ultimately what they really need to do is to be able to run the football, play good defense, and then find the right quarterback, not just a quarterback.
Now, certainly not comparing the two. And, look, every day Atlanta tries a new way to go through Charles Robinson to basically say, hey, can we get anything out of here other than having to eat this money, which basically they're going to eat. So, lining it up, well, we're willing to pick up the extra $10 million. Well, I don't think you're really willing to do that. How about we'll give some money and try to buy a draft pick? Atlanta, you're kind of stuck where you're stuck. You're either releasing him or you're not, and you're paying him either way. So that is your choice to make here. But you have Kirk, versus Russ, 37 versus 36. You certainly feel that Russ is the more mobile guy right now. Kirk, you never know what you're truly going to get back from the Achilles at the age that he suffered it. A lot of people are just trying to say that Cousins' arm is shot. And look, there was that hit last year, and it was released that, he was dealing with arm, shoulder type of issues. Don't know exactly how much, is that coming back? Was that something that once he stops playing, rest, treatment, physical therapy, da 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 da. Is he getting that arm strength back? But if you're looking at the two of them, there is the obvious line here of where Pittsburgh got the Russ discount last year and only paying him $1 million and change at league minimum. That would certainly be the case this year for Cousins, but it certainly would not be the case for Russ. Russ is going to want some money.
Yeah, I mean, the big benefit is if the Browns were able to get Kirk Cousins for the $1.255 million, adding to the Kenny Pickett deal, which is worth a little under 2.7. If they draft a rookie at 33 or later, or even if they trade up late in the first round, their whole quarterback room is going to cost about $6 million. Now, which
would be less than what you're going to. That's less than what you would pay Russell Wilson. But go ahead.
Yeah, but obviously, then you have to factor in that is offsetting the massive amount you're still paying, or still sort of being stuck with for Deshaun Watson, but that nevertheless still helps you out quite a bit. But yes, Russell Wilson's probably going to cost a decent amount of money. Now, does that decent amount of money change now in a world where it might be just the Browns competing against the Giants? Maybe, but I still suspect it's going to be around at least $20 million because I think the Giants would be willing to pay that. But if that gets the Browns where they need to go, then nobody's going to really complain about it. And it's not as if they have to, the Jack Conklin deal is not to make it so they can facilitate Russell Wilson. They have the capacity to do that. They are trying to do that to be able to add other things. And then depending on how the quarterback shakes out, then they find out how much sort of extra money they have to operate with beyond the quarterback position to try to continue to add things, which could be at that point more likely trade than anything else. But here again, the free agency period goes a while, and there's going to be, we sit here and it goes, oh man, free agency is almost over. It is March 13th. When we know full well that there are going to be guys who sign in June and right before training camp. That's always how this thing goes. We just always forget and sort of try to talk ourselves into the idea that, we've got to get everybody signed so fast. We're going to have some guys who get cut. We're going to have some guys who get traded, and we'll see where that shakes out. And there may be an opportunity for the Browns to find themselves a deal or a player or whatever, but they want to get the quarterback situation settled first. Now, the one thing I would sort of add to that is every day that Russell Wilson or these other quarterbacks don't sign and we get closer to this $10 million deadline thing for Kirk Cousins, it sort of works in the Browns' favor because obviously if Russell Wilson wants to make a decision now, then it takes them out of the Kirk Cousins thing entirely. Whereas if we get to, the day the bonus is due and the Falcons basically give up and go, no, we're cutting him, this is stupid, then at least there's that possibility where you can at least evaluate the two prospects against each other. The issue is if Russell Wilson wants to make a decision, the Browns can't afford to wait and go, okay, we're going to see what Kirk Cousins wants to do.
But also, though, this is where maybe the Giants could be handicapped as well, because even if the meeting goes great and Russ says, guys, I think I'm in, the Giants could tell Russ, well, we're all kind of sitting here in, Aaron Rodgers limbo, so not necessarily sure we want to give Russ a deal right now. So if Russ, it seems like if Russ wants to get this done, his best bet, get it done quickly, I should say, would be to just, try to hammer something out with the Browns, no?
Yeah, I would think so, because it does feel as if the Giants are waiting on Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are waiting on Aaron Rodgers. And, in some ways, the NFL world is waiting on Aaron Rodgers to do his solemn walk on the beach decision.
It was a great photo, though. That was a great photo. Come on, that was a good photo.
But
it was.
Yeah, there is this element where it feels like the NFL is waiting on Aaron Rodgers to figure out what he wants to do.
And he loves every minute of it.
And then everybody else is to sort of react based on that. So yeah, I think if Russell Wilson wants to get something done faster, it almost certainly seems like the Browns are the way to go.
It's weird because and look, it's a game of musical chairs, and it's an ugly game, I think, because at the end of the day, nobody's getting any maximum prize here. But you certainly have Pittsburgh, Giants, Browns all kind of sitting here, and I guess maybe if you don't want to use the musical chairs reference, it would be the girls waiting for which boy is going to show up with the prom proposal, I guess at this point. So it comes down to money, it comes down to best fit. Still looks like it's a Kirk Cousins or a Russ Wilson dalliance for the Browns to figure out here. And, Atlanta just, I don't know what you're doing. It's just a poor look, and all of these things. And it's not much different than Myles Garrett saying, "I want to be traded. I want to be traded. I want to be traded." Montgomery down there in Atlanta just no. We want Kirk. Oh, well, we didn't even pay the money. Oh, maybe we'll get it trade. Look, you made the contract. It was a bad contract. You're stuck with it. You're paying him either way. Just get it the hell over. Get the guy out of Atlanta. You don't want him around Michael Penix anymore than he probably wants to be around Michael Penix. More quarterback talk. And it certainly seemed before this all kicked off on Monday, Pete, it started to see, and look, guys, when Pete and I do this, we're not sitting there looking at the betting lines, okay? I couldn't tell you what the betting line was a week and a half ago as who was to going number one overall in this draft as to who it is now. Any betting books want to go out there and get involved with the OBR, we're more than open to that, and we can certainly find an angle to discuss that. Not the way we do it here. But it certainly seems like the shift now. And certainly whether it was a good contract or a bad contract, when you go give Dan Moore $50 million to play left tackle for you, certainly is a sign. When you take J.C. Latham, who basically you Jedrick Wills, and at least they're going to correct the error of their ways. J.C. Latham will go from left tackle to right tackle. You spent the previous first-round pick before that on Skoronski. You go out, you drop $9 million on Kevin Zeitler, and God bless Kevin Zeitler, done this an extremely long time, has made a boatload of money. Pros, freaking pro, Kevin Zeitler. It's pretty much, in my opinion, Pete, done. The Browns are on the clock at 2. I don't think Tennessee's even why hide it at this point? If you know that's what you want and you're happy with it, who cares? Start flaunting it. Have Cam Ward in the town, start looking at houses, going to car dealerships, picking out vehicles. But it seems an awful, easy slam dunk that Cam Ward is not only going number one, but he's going number one overall to the Tennessee Titans.
I think the Titans are willing to listen to a Godfather offer. I'm sure they're willing to listen to Joe Shane desperately throw everything he's got at them. But yeah, Cam Ward to 1 is done. It's just a question of who's going to get the pick. And ultimately, I do think it's going to be the Titans. Their whole free agent, other than I think signing Draymond Jones, their whole free agency is signing linemen. And Kevin Zeitler's a 1-year deal. You're going to want to get this thing squared away. I don't know where we are in the Skoronski, timeline. Is this year 3 for him already?
This would be year 3. Latham's year 2. Yep.
That, you've got all these guys. You're going to want to take advantage. So yeah, I think ultimately the Titans are going to sit there and go, hey, we're going to sit here and our phone's going to be here if you want to give us everything and give us a reason not to take him. But it's so prohibitively expensive to, I think, the Browns first. The Giants are the one I could see them doing something incredibly stupid. But nevertheless.
Because for the Giants, if it doesn't work out for them, it doesn't matter. They're out the door anyway. So we can go ahead. I'll mortgage the future because it's technically not my future to have to worry about anyway.
Yeah, not only that, I think if the Giants were to do it, to your point, I think they would just basically give up all of their picks for next year since they may not be there to use them. So yeah, that becomes the thing for them. And then the Giants we'll see how ballsy they want to be if they want to try to do something like take a position player like Travis Hunter at 3 and then try to get a quarterback either moving back up into the first round or just in the second round. But they may feel compelled to pull their trigger on Shedeur Sanders. I don't think they want to do it there. I don't think any team wants to do it there, but they may be desperate enough and, a bad process that might work out for them in the end if Shedeur can play well enough. But overall, at that point, it's now the Browns are deciding between Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. To me, I think that's a slam dunk for Abdul Carter, but we'll see how the Browns feel about it. And then the Browns, for whatever you want to say about all the other things they need to do, Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, Malik Collins, Mike Hall, Isaiah McGuire, Joe Tryon, as your front, gives you a lot of things to look forward to in the 2025 season. And every quarterback, basically you go in the mindset of if I can't have a quarterback, no one else gets one either. And the idea that every team on the schedule sees the Browns and goes, oh no, like as their quarterback walks into the stadiums, like this is going to suck. And I'm here for it.
Oh, it's literally tantalizing to even think about. And like this is, and some of the fun that's certainly been coming through my timeline recently. Abdul Carter's too small. He's bigger than Von Miller. He's more athletic than Von Miller. So I mean, just kind of where we're at with some of this guys, and it really, really makes me laugh, honestly. And look, and by no means, you're certainly not tooting a horn here or whatever, but you're starting to see it come out more and more. And look, and for everybody, oh well, Vegas would trade up to 2 to come take Shedeur Sanders. Oh, they just picked up Geno Smith. The Jets would trade up to 2 to come. I mean, not saying Justin Fields would be enough to deter you from doing it, but in the same respect, though, if those teams were willing to trade at 2, and if the Browns thought that of him, then you would just take him at 2. When you're talking about a quarterback, if he's anywhere in the top 10, it's acceptable to take him at 2. The problem is that he's not being viewed as top 10. Yes, one team can change all of that. But if you told me right now that he's a guy that might be more probably in play for Pittsburgh and where they draft, as opposed to maybe the Browns and where they draft, that's, to me, starts to sound like something that's probably more realistic. But, the Carter thing is super intriguing. Now, here's the thing. And now with Hunter, and we know the Browns are on record. Basically, they said, spoke and said they think receiver, maybe some defensive type of stuff, somewhere down the line, this, that, and the other thing. My thing with Hunter at 2, though, Pete, and when we're talking about a receiver, 6 foot, 180 pounds, and if I am going wide receiver at 2, the return that I am expecting is Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's the bar is incredibly high to clear because
this is why receivers are great, and we get so many in the first round, but they don't go 1, 2, 3. It starts a little below that, and then the run goes.
I mean, that's why it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. It is the elite company that, yes, if you can get one of those guys, they're some of the most valuable players in the league, but they are few and far between. And the line of demarcation to between the top guy and everybody else is steep. And that's sort of what you run into. And if Abdul Carter, as an example, is a 10 sack guy, you're going to be happy with that. If he's a 15 plus sack guy and a pure super impact player, defensive player of the year type, you're going to be happy with that. But if you are constantly getting if you get 100 sack career out of him, you're going to be thrilled. But if you're getting right around 1,000 yards per year out of a receiver that you took 2 overall, you're sitting there going, it doesn't feel very good. And that's the problem. And it's a high volatility position in terms of picking. It's a high miss position because it's obviously dependent on the guy throwing them the ball, among other things. Whereas, it's Abdul Carter can go out there or any defensive end, Myles Garrett being a great example, can go out there and be a great defensive end. Yes, it's certainly valuable to have really good teammates, but he can go over and take over a game by himself. It's really hard to do that. And even, the common bad argument I see is, well, the Browns only won 3 games with an elite defensive end. They won 4 when Josh Gordon had 1,600 yards. You need a lot of good players to be a good football team. So the idea that this all-in mentality where you have to have, whatever it is. And obviously these are people who are all trying to argue that you have to take a quarterback no matter what. No, you don't, but you need a lot of good players. And the Browns' best path forward is to get as many good players as they can. And yes, they ultimately have to find the right quarterback, but they have to find the right quarterback. They just can't take a quarterback. And every quarterback they take that's not, they're going to sit back there and instantly regret it because they've still got Myles Garrett on a freshly extended contract. They've got all these players that they've kept, Denzel Ward. They've got a ton of talent on this team, David Njoku, so on and so forth. Jerry Jeudy they've just acquired. They need to keep building and get guys who are going to be impact players, not just sit here and go, we're going to pause everything and hope that the quarterback we take it to, whether he warrants it or not, is going to get us enough. They need a guy there who's going to help them win the Super Bowl, not somebody who's just going to get them to 9-8.
Well, and this is why I think there's a lot of appeal with Carter. And look, you're never going to say about any prospect or any kid, oh, well, he could be Myles Garrett. But Myles is here for 6 more years. Myles is here till 35. If Carter is here and say Carter, runs out his 5-year deal, which puts Carter on the timeline with Miles till Miles is 34. You think there's going to be at some point where Miles starts returning a little bit back to planet Earth as far as being this bizarro. But Abdul should probably be hitting the freak of nature point in the NFL. And so maybe you never really have or lose the presence of that truly, utterly dominant, insane pass rusher.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's certainly part of it. And Isaiah McGuire is part of that as well. Isaiah McGuire, the most successful story of the Browns last season on defense, Jerry Jeudy being the guy on offense. You have two guys that are on rookie contracts that are going to sort of age with Myles Garrett. Isaiah McGuire was a very good player opposite Myles Garrett once he got more reps, and you're hoping he's going to be able to build on that. But Abdul Carter is where the NFL has going. Every year, quarterback is getting more athletic. Jalen Milroe is a perfectly good example, but they're not. The quarterbacks aren't getting slower, and you need somebody. And obviously, Myles Garrett is an alien in that regard because he can run with anybody. But you're playing Lamar Jackson twice per year. Josh Allen is in your conference. Justin Herbert is in your conference. Joe Burrow is not a bad is a better athlete than Shedeur Sanders is, despite what people want to tell me. Abdul Carter is the athlete that can match those guys. Abdul Carter is the athlete that can scare those guys. So it's a huge advantage for you to have that. And just, again, it counters where the league is going. Every year, we're going to see this. Quarterback position is getting more athletic. It's not going the other way. And the other problem you're running into is that offensive line play is not improving. We are seeing it either at best stagnate and arguably get worse every year. So the more of these guys you have, the better your team's going to be. And at some point, it's going to sink in for people that if the other team doesn't score, your team's going to win. Yes, the Browns have a lot of work to do on offense. And yes, they have to get a quarterback. But, man, without Cam Ward being on the board, Abdul Carter is that guy. And you can use all the rest of your picks on offense if you want. Get that running game going and take a quarterback of the future. Take a swing, even if it's trading up from 33. And to your point that you made earlier, it could be for Shedeur Sanders. I don't think that is out of the realm of possibility. It could be Jackson Dart. It could be. I don't think they would need to trade up for it. But Jalen Milroe is certainly somebody that's intriguing for people. I don't love him with the hands, but whatever. Or Will Howard or whatever. And then if you need to, you go into next year and you take your swing there. But the Browns, to me, and this is what I've been saying all offseason, get better on the line of scrimmage, run the football, and play better defense. And set yourself up to get the quarterback that ultimately is going to put you in position to succeed. And follow the path that you've seen laid before you by the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and other teams where you set the groundwork, you have a functional organization, and then you add the quarterback. You're not asking the quarterback to come in and save you because that's an inherently bad idea, especially when you're trying to talk yourself into quarterbacks that most people don't view as a first-round pick.
And, Philadelphia Eagles, and no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, he had a nice season. But, what did everybody talk about? They talked about Saquon Barkley. Talks about the offensive line. They talked about the defensive line. And basically, Jalen Hurts, all he had to do was go out there and basically just execute what was in front of him. And if it wasn't there, don't be stupid and turn the ball over. And through the second half of the season, they tore through everybody in the playoffs, and took home the Lombardi. So, having 21 really good players out of 22, as opposed to having a really good quarterback and maybe 10 to 12 good players, it's just not enough to get it done. It's not enough in this day and age to overcome it. So obviously we hit you a lot here. Big news today, Jack Conklin restructuring the contract. Russell Wilson was in the building. Certainly something that's going to be monitored, in the days to come, certainly through the weekend. And obviously I believe, Pete, again, right, Monday is the day, St. Patrick's Day is the day for Kirk Cousins, as far as this, $10 million that's apparently holding up everybody. I believe it is.
Well, so whatever the 5th day of the league year is. So I assume
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Sunday into Monday, somewhere in that range then. And Atlanta, just stop already. Forget it. You're just holding people up from making their decisions. So obviously covered a ton here. Again, thanks to everybody. The site popping right now. Certainly a great time of the year for content. Appreciate everybody coming out to either read it, visualize it, and of course, every other way you've done it. So of course, check out everything over on 247. Of course, the OBR. Subscribe to YouTube. Of course, subscribe to Twitch. He is Pete Smith. I am Jeff Lloyd. This has been Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, and we will talk to you tomorrow.